All right. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Karibuni sana. Good to see you guys streaming in here into the Zoom meeting. Lots of familiar names there. You see Alice, Brian, Caroline, Daniel Simiu, Eric, Esther Kabiro, and so many others joining into the Zoom meeting. Karibuni sana. Hope you guys are well and hope you guys are safe after what we did end up experiencing yesterday. But we're really glad that you could join us on the social media platforms. Also good to see you guys streaming in. Hope everyone is well from wherever it is that they're joining us from. Karibuni sana. Welcome to the Afriforex Daily Analysis on this 26th day of June, the year of our Lord 2024. So for the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. It's not a one-man show. So we also do have Mitch. He is here working in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box. Mitch will be getting back to you, but I will be looking at the questions in the Q&A section, more specifically towards the tail end of the webinar. But that goes out to the guys who are here on Zoom. If you're watching from YouTube and you have questions, then you'll definitely have to sign up and come into the Zoom meeting so that we can end up interacting with you. So we're going to jump straight into it. And apologies for starting off a couple of minutes late. The number of fundamentals that were coming out for the euro at exactly 9, but nothing has really changed. There are also quite a number of fundamentals that did come out yesterday, but there's nothing much that has really changed much. So the watch list in terms of the currency pairs is more or less the same as what we did have yesterday, but feel free to take note of that. The only change that's there is on the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones. They've switched sides, but that's more or less the only change that we do have for today. So feel free to take note of that. And I guess we can't end up getting started. Unfortunately, we didn't get any screenshots yesterday. I think guys were out protesting yesterday. Guys were not on the chats, but hopefully we'll get some screenshots maybe tomorrow. So feel free to send them in. Remember, even if they're not really the best, we're here. Use us as a resource. Make sure that you do send them in to us. We will point out issues. You'll definitely be or one thing that you'll definitely end up realizing is that someone else's problem is also your problem, because there is nothing that's independent when it comes to problems on the charts. What you're facing is a problem that someone else is more or less facing. So if we help one person out, you could realize that the problem or the solution could cut across so many people. So feel free to send in your screenshots. And also embrace where you are. We keep on insisting and telling guys that that's the most important thing you can end up doing, because ideally accept where you are so that at least you can end up getting help. So feel free to send in your screenshots. We'll be more than happy to see what you guys are up to. So we're going to start off by looking at the yen pairs. We're going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. Then move over to the euro pairs, then the Swiss franc pairs, do the same. And then we'll look at the indices and the commodities last. And of course, since everything is up for review, we'll also do the reviews as we continue moving along. So the first one is the Canadian dollar against Japanese yen. Now, for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. You can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region right here. And you can see that I had talked about this buyers coming up, and hopefully if the pullback came in slow, you could time some buys, but you can see that unfortunately the buyers just couldn't get past this region right here. It's like they needed a much better price. The price did actually spike down. Unfortunately, this could have caught you out. If you got the buys here and your stops were somewhere within here, it's one of those trades where you just get caught out before the market moves. It can be painful, but you can see that the market did move to the upside. This was when the Canadian dollar CPIs did actually come out, and you can see that the market did push to the upside quite aggressively, pulled back in, unfortunately just shy of that area. Could have been a bit tricky in terms of grabbing that buy, but let's see today if we can get something clearer. So the levels for this one are more or less the same as what we did have yesterday. There isn't much of a change. So feel free to take note of that. Don't look for your buying opportunities right now. Be a bit patient. Wait and see if you could get the market coming back in, either within the semi-aggressive conservative region, which is the region in the middle, or maybe somewhere within this region right here. But there's a high possibility you could find the price coming back in within here. You can see that once the market broke this area to the upside yesterday, the pullback didn't quite come back in within this region. So there's a possibility you could find the market just pulling back in within this area right here before the market does go to the upside. So you could watch out for that. But also remember this region at the top. In case the market breaks to the upside, we get a nice strong breach to the upside and a nice pullback coming back in within this region. At that point in time, that's when you could potentially look for your buying opportunities. So watch out for that. Watch out for the times. Like we do keep on pointing out, 10, 3, 4:30, could find some good opportunities at that point in time. And also remember the red SNR. If the pullback does come in deep within this region right here and breaks it to the downside, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trading opportunity for us up until if price does end up breaking to the upside of that region. So the next one is the New Zealand dollar against Japanese yen. So for this one, we're watching out for buys yesterday as well. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region. So it had just taken off to the upside. So at around 9:10, price was approaching here. Wasn't a good time for you to look for your buying opportunity. You just needed to be patient. And you can see that at 3, price was back in within a buyer's region, and also at 4:30, back in within this region. You just needed to exercise a bit of patience. And you can see that the market did push itself to the upside. Right now, we're still more or less within this range. So the levels also on this one are more or less the same as what we were watching out for yesterday. There isn't much of a change. So watch out for that region at the top. Don't look for buys when the price is high up within there. You can definitely see sellers have reacted of that area a number of times. So you don't want to sign up for trouble. So make sure that you do wait. Either the market breaks to the upside of this region. If we get the market breaking and we get a nice pullback and a nice retest of that region, especially after we get a breach of structure, because you can clearly see we're in some sort of a range. Once we get a breach of structure, then at that point in time, you could potentially look for your buying opportunities when you get the confirmation that the breach has happened. Remember that spikes could also happen within here. You can see buyers have attempted to break this region to the upside, and that has been unsuccessful. So also remember that there are also a bunch of sellers sitting here. But considering the fact that we're still within that range, the best area for you to look for your buying opportunities is definitely at the bottom of the range. So hopefully, let's also keep our fingers crossed. Maybe during the London session, especially when 10 comes around the corner and the market is somewhere within here, you could find that the London big boys could potentially push the market down. And you could find that maybe at around 3, 4:30, the market could pick itself up off this region right here like it did yesterday. So watch out for that. Also remember the region at the bottom right there. In case the market does come in for a deeper pullback, then just be on the lookout for that and try and see whether you could get a sign of the big boys coming in a bit lower. So the next one is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now for this one, we were watching out for buys yesterday. Can't clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out in the morning. So there was this region right here, which was the aggressive, conservative at the top. And in the morning, when I'm looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this area. And I did point out, don't look for your buying opportunities within this area. You can see that sellers have reacted off there. Wait and see if you could get the market coming in within this region here, or maybe somewhere within this area right here. You can see that the market did quite literally pull back. Unfortunately, we couldn't get something that tell us to look for the buying opportunities at 3. You can see the market just came shy of this area here, but it's also a region that we're expecting to potentially see the market push to the upside. So there was that fast push, and you can see that at 4:30, price was somewhere within this region right here, and the market did push itself to the upside. This was due to some Australian dollar news events that came out earlier today. So you will find that a lot of the AUDs are showing a lot of strength coming in. So that's the reason why of all the yen pairs that we're looking at, this one is the one that has really moved the most. So we will be waiting to see whether we can get those pullbacks coming in. Don't chase the buying opportunities right now, because if you do, there's a high possibility you could get a loss. Wait for the pullback, wait and see what happens. Maybe somewhere within this region right here, you could find that the market could pull back. It may be an attempt to break to the downside, ends up being unsuccessful, and the market pushes to the upside. Then you could potentially try and see whether you could get your buying opportunities at that point in time. But you also could find that the pullback could come in a bit deeper. You can see that the market broke this region to the upside. So maybe there's a possibility you could find that there could be a retest coming in, maybe somewhere within this region right here. And if that happens, then this is also a very good area for you to time your buying opportunities. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. Also remember to watch out for the region at the bottom right here. Of course, the market has gone high up, but like we keep on pointing out, there's nothing that's impossible when it comes to the Forex market. Could find price right here, right now, only to come later, maybe at around 3, 4:30, and you find that the market is all the way back in within this region, and it could give you another buy. Of course, at that point in time, so many people who are hitting the buys now and chasing the buys, because everyone and the whole world can definitely see this move right here. Maybe guys are trying to really jump in on those buying opportunities. But remember that the big boys, they don't really want you to make money. So in fact, they want to be making money off you. So they will possibly, and there's a possibility they could push the market the other way fast. So just make sure that you're not caught wrong-footed and you're not taken for a fool. So the next one is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're watching out for buying opportunities, and you can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. Aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this region right here. But I did point out that you should try and get your buys as close as possible within here so that you could get your stops, as tight as possible. Remember that trading is a game of risk to reward. The tighter your stops, the better the rewards. But you also need to find a perfect balance, because also if your stops are too tight, you could also run the probability and the risk of actually getting stopped out before the market moves in your favor. So you can see that the market approached this area, bounced off this area during the London session, came down. You can see that at 3, that's when the market was actually back in within this region and gave a buy going up. I mean, if you did manage your trade within there, then that's okay. But you can see that the market has attempted to go to the upside, attempting to break this region to the upside. So for this one for today, we're still going to be watching out for buys. So do watch out for these 3 areas right here. So we do have the conservative at the top, semi-aggressive conservative region somewhere within there. And we have this region at the bottom right there, which is the aggressive area. So don't look for buys now. Let's wait and see if we could get the market pulling back in within here, or maybe somewhere within here, then we could look for the buys. Alternatively, if it breaks above that region to the upside, and we do get a nice confirmation. You can see like over here, the market broke somewhere within this region. There was a pullback that came in. I mean, if you got the buys within here, then that would have been okay. It's just that the times when the pullback did actually happen, this was at around 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm sure most of you were not on the charts at that point in time. So if you get something similar to this, maybe somewhere within here, then at that point in time, you could potentially try and see whether you could get your buying opportunities. So last but not least, for the yen pairs, we have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. And you can see the 3 regions that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this area. I did point out caution in terms of looking for your buying opportunities, especially when the market was so close within here. We're expecting, hopefully, to get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. But it seems that there was an SNR somewhere within this area that was just holding the market. And you can see that the market pushed to the upside, came back in and literally held within this region. Also, maybe could have been another buy somewhere within here. But once again, this was at around 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. Most of you definitely not on the charts at that point in time. The market has pushed itself up, but it is okay. I mean, opportunities will always show up. So you don't really need to chase. So don't keep the buying opportunities right now, or don't look for buys when the market is somewhere so close within a seller's region. Let's wait and see if those sellers can react and potentially bring the market down, maybe somewhere within this area here, or somewhere as close as possible within there. We will try and see what type of reaction we can end up getting of the buyers within that area. If we get a nice reaction of the buyers within here, then you could look for the buys. If not, and they need a much better price, then we'll have to wait and see if we could get the price coming in somewhere as close as possible within this region right here for us to look for the buying opportunities. So do watch out for that. Also remember, if the market breaks beneath the red SNR and holds to the downside of this area, unfortunately, at that point in time, then there will be no trade for us at that point. So make sure that you do also have that in mind. So I guess that's pretty much it for the yen pairs. So we've mixed and matched them up with everything on the buy side. So right now we're going to move on to the euro pairs, and we're going to do exactly the same. So we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side, and we'll see what they have to offer. So the first one off the line is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, Yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying or selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this region right here. And you can see that the market did actually end up coming down. There was this SNR right here that I had pointed out that you could find some sort of issues on your way down. You did need to watch out for that. And you literally can see that the market did bounce off this region, move to the upside, came back in within this area. So at around 3, you can see that the market did push to the downside. And this one pushed to the downside quite aggressively. This was when the CPIs for Canada didn't actually end up coming out. And you can see that the market spiked to the downside, almost came back in within this region and also this region right here, which was the minor SNR that we did end up having yesterday. So this one was a decent trade, gave a 1:2.5, 8 or thereabout. I did end up getting that trade coming down. Let me see if I can just show you guys that. Although it was a very quick move off that area there, coming down. So if we were to put this side by side, you can see somewhere within this area coming down, had a stop loss of about 10 pips. But the market spiked down because at one point it was all the way down within this region. But I think that's the point in time when there was breaking news about Parliament being broken into by the protesters yesterday. So as I was busy following that, I didn't realize that the market was all the way down here. But by the time I closed, price had already come back in within this region. But at least still ended up making like a 1:4 on it, because I did close the trade somewhere down within this region right here. So let's see what happens today. So for this one, let me just see if I can get rid of that right there. If the market does end up pulling back in, within any of these areas, we will be watching out to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So do watch out on what happens on the pullback. Make sure that you really read the pullback, but the story is more or less the same. Let's see if we can get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here for us to look for the sales to come down. Although the best scenario would be if we could get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within this region right here once again, or maybe even higher, the better. Because if you do end up getting the sales here, you could also end up getting into some sort of a squeeze within this region right here. So let's say if you get the sell there, there's definitely this region at the bottom right here that you'll have to watch out for. And you could easily end up getting squeezed within this region right here. So hopefully, if the market gives us a deeper pullback, we'll possibly end up having more room for us to actually end up playing. But ideally, it's what we want versus what the market gives us. So if the market doesn't give us that, then I guess we'll just have to try and see whether we could get some trading opportunities within this region. Just make sure that you really manage your trade within this area right here. If the market can't break beneath this region, then just make sure that you do either scratch your trade or really do some very, very good money management at that point in time. So just watch out for that. Definitely a region where we do have buyers. You also could find an aggressive reaction coming in, still off this region right here that we're watching out for. And you could find that maybe off this area, the buyers could literally push the market to the upside quite aggressively. If that happens and the market holds here, if you're really good at trading, you could potentially look for a counter to go up. But if you're not, I would suggest you possibly end up being patient, just so you can see if the market could come back in within here. Because remember, there are also quite a number of SNRs in between. You could find that the market could literally turn off either somewhere within there or maybe somewhere within there. And if you're not well experienced in terms of how to handle your trades and how to handle your emotions, you could easily end up fumbling the ball and things might not turn out very well for you. So just make sure that you're patient. But ideally, the levels, more or less the same as what we did have yesterday. And also watch out for the region at the top. Seems like a long shot, but price can actually literally go all the way back in within that region. There's nothing that's impossible on the Forex charts. So the next one is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region. At around 9:10, price came down aggressively, and you can see that it came down all the way till within this region. Then at 4:30, price was back within some buyers region. It wasn't a really good time for you to look for your selling opportunities. Just needed to be patient. But unfortunately, we couldn't get the price coming back in all the way to the top region that we had pointed out. But let's see what happens today. So don't look for yourselves now. Be a bit patient. You can clearly see that we're within some sort of a buyer's region within this area right here. So you can see that the buyers have reacted off here before. So wait and see if you could get the market breaching to the downside. If we do get a pullback and a hold, maybe even some attempts of the buyers to push to the upside, which ends up being unsuccessful, then at that point in time, you could potentially try and see whether you could get yourselves in. But right now, be patient. You could find the London session, and the London big boys could push the market back in within this region, or maybe even somewhere within here, because you also can't see that there's been so many attempts of the sellers within this area. You can't disregard that area right there, because you can't see the number of times that the market has turned off that region. But generally, you want to get yourselves as close as possible within here. So even if you were to look at this as some sort of a range, right now we're at the bottom of the range. You should not be looking for your selling opportunities at the bottom of the range, unless you get a breach of structure to the downside, maybe to come down all the way to within this region right here. So watch out for that. Also remember the red SNR at the top, and also watch out for the times that we do keep on pointing out. And of course, remember to always trade with a stop loss at all times. We're here to also promote good, smart, and responsible trading at all times. So moving on into the next one. This is the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we were watching out to see whether we could get some sells. And you also can see the three areas that I had pointed out right there. In the morning, price was somewhere within this region coming down, bounced off this area. Of course, you didn't need to look for selling opportunities here unless you got the confirmation. Price did seem like it broke to the downside, but you can see how quickly the market came back into the upside and then held. And you can see that during the US session, the market was more or less back within a buyer's region, pushed to the upside. If you timed the sells closer at the top of the range, right there, or at the top of this region where we did have the sellers, you can see that the market did literally hold within there, but later the market did push itself to the downside. And this is definitely something to do with the AUD news events, and you can see that strength coming in. Of course, remember, for the guys who are new, I know you're wondering how is this strength and the market is coming down. It's strength for the Australian dollar. Remember that on the other one that we were looking at that was going up, the AUD against the Japanese yen, the Australian dollar is to the left. It's the base currency pair. It's the basis of what we're doing, either buying or selling. And of course, by the market going up, since it's on the left, that's strength. This one is the inverse. So strength on the Australian dollar, the chart is coming down. And you can see that this one is coming down quite aggressively. So also could be something to do with the euro showing a lot of weakness. Remember that there are also some euro news events that came out a couple of minutes ago, and you can see that the numbers are negative. So that could also be helping or aiding in terms of this one really moving. So that plus the strength on the Australian dollar, that combined could be the reason why this one is really moving. So you can see the three areas that we had pointed out early in the morning, but you can generally see that the market is really moving. Don't really know where this one is heading, but ideally the best thing to do is still to wait for the pullback. Don't chase the sells right now, because the main thing that you should be asking yourself if you're going to be looking for a sell now is, where are you going to be putting your stop loss? If you can't answer that question, don't take that trade. And like I pointed out before, that's the reason why many people jump in on trades and actually don't put stop losses. It's because they can't answer that question. So in as much as you can't see that the market is moving, don't jump in on a trade if you can't answer that question. And you can't see that we're approaching a region where we do have some sort of support area. So maybe the market could be coming back in within this region. Let's see if we could get the market bouncing off that area right there. If it does, hopefully if we get a nice pullback coming in at the conservative area, then we could potentially try and see whether we could get selling opportunities. So it seems like there's a H4 level down within there, but you never know what type of pullback we could get. You could get the market coming back in within here or somewhere within this region, or maybe even all the way at the top. You know, it's very possible. These are things that we've seen on the charts over and over again. So patience is key. So for this one, exercise a lot of patience and a lot of restraint. If not, then I think you might just generally not end up having a very good day today, because you could end up getting stopped out quite hard on that one. So the next one is the euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get sells. And you can see the three regions that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere within this region right here. So at around 9:10, price was there, came down. Unfortunately, there wasn't really much to tell us that the big sellers were here. They just showed up and they pushed the market to the downside. So this one could have been a bit hard to end up getting, but you can see that the market broke to the downside of this region, and you can see the pullback coming in. If you look at the time, so at around 4:30 or thereabout, that's when the market was backing within there for that retest, gave a good sell to come down. The buyers did react. Right now, the sellers seem like they are a bit weaker. If you compare to how they did come down within this region here and what's happening right now, so maybe there's a possibility you could find that the market could give some sort of a pullback back in within this region right here, and you could find that the buyers could react. You can't see that the previous reaction of the buyers was this. The market came back in within here. The sellers have become weaker. There's a possibility the buyers could react off this area again, and you could find the market back in within this region here. So just keep an eye out for that. Of course, also watch out for the top area. You could also find that maybe if the buyers do really come in quite aggressively and the sellers are not interested with this price here, you could technically find the market all the way back up to within that area at the top right there. So watch out for that. And also remember, if the market breaks above the red SNR, holds above that region, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So moving on into the last euro pair. This is the euro against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were watching out for sells as well. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. In the morning, price was somewhere within this region, so at around 9, 9:30, 10, the times when we normally look at the charts. The sellers had just showed up. I was waiting for the pullback to come back in, and I think I did point that out here yesterday, but unfortunately, we just couldn't get that. Sometimes the market doesn't give you what you want. It just pushed to the downside. But there was this region right here where you can see that the market came down, bounced off this region, then came back in, gave some sort of a retest back within that region. Then you can see that the sellers really pushed the market to the downside quite aggressively. There wasn't much of a pullback until the price bounced off this region right here. So for today, let's see if we're going to be lucky in terms of getting the selling opportunities on this one. So do watch out for that region at the top. Could find the market bouncing or coming all the way back in within that region. It's very possible. And the region in the middle, somewhere within here, you can see that the market has bounced off here a number of times. And the sellers do seem like they're right now somewhere within here. So that's the best area where you could potentially try and see whether you could get your sells. And also this region at the bottom right here. So don't look for your sells now. Wait and see if you could get the market breaking beneath this region to the downside. If that does happen, then you could potentially try and see whether you could get the sells on the pullback. If you get the confirmation that the buyers are unable to actually break above this region to the upside. So watch out for that. But ideally, right now, the best thing you can do is wait. Maybe you could find that maybe at around 10 during the London market open, the London big boys could push the market to the upside. And you could find the market back in within here, maybe at around 3, 4:30, and that would possibly give you a really good selling opportunity. So you just need to be a bit patient on this one. So I guess that's pretty much it for the euro pairs. We've mixed and matched them up with everything on the buy side. So right now we're going to move on to the last set of currency pairs, which are the CHF pairs. So we'll start off with the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, at around 9:10, price was somewhere within this region right here. So the bars had just started to show up. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the market just pushing back in within this region for us to look for the buying opportunities. It just took off to the upside. Sometimes the market does end up doing that. But ideally, you should never be chasing. So you can imagine the guys who missed the buys here and the market was all the way high up within here and they thought it was a good time to hit the buys. You can only imagine what those guys were going through yesterday. Must have been tear gassed seriously on the chart. So again, it's always good to really wait. So you can see that the market did actually end up coming back in within this region right here. And if you look at the times, and you see, we don't make these things up. These are things that we've seen on the charts over and over again. So you can see just by being patient, at exactly 3, price was back in within this region. And you can see that the market quite literally took off from within this region quite aggressively to the upside. And you can see that the buyers have more or less sustained the momentum, moving to the upside. So for this one, let's see if we can end up either getting the market pulling back in within this region here. And if we get a nice pullback within that area, we could potentially try and see whether we could get a buying opportunity there. If the pullback comes in deeper, There's somewhere within this area right here that we're also going to be watching out for. And of course, the last area where we will be looking for some last ditch buying opportunities will be somewhere within this area right here. So do watch out for that. But of course, right now, our eyes are on this region right here. Let's see what pullback we end up getting. Remember, you always want to get a weak pullback coming back in within this region. I mean, if the pullback comes in like that, then we have a problem. There you'll have to potentially be on standby. But if we end up getting maybe the pullback coming in, in a very choppy manner, where the sellers really struggle to push the market to the downside, that's what you want to see. When the market comes in within here, then try and read. If you see signs that the big boys are showing up, especially if the buy candles start to become bigger than the sell candles, then you could potentially try and see whether you could get your buying opportunities there, and you could potentially end up getting a really good buying opportunity within that area. But the main thing you also need to remember is watch out for the highest part that the market gets up until, because you need to mark that point. That needs to be your next problem area. If you don't end up marking that point, then you could easily end up fumbling the ball and things could end up becoming very bad. What I mean is, let's say, for example, if the market comes high up within this area right here, if you do get a buy within this region here, you cannot ignore this area right here. If you do, then it means that you're living in utopia. You're not being realistic about your trading. You really need to watch out for that region. And that's the reason why, even for right now, let the market go. You could potentially think that this is the highest part that the market has gotten high up until, but you could find that the market could end up literally going up higher, which is okay. If it does that, well and good. If the pullback does end up coming in, then ideally you just need to target this region right here. What we normally say is that, between two levels, between your point of entry and the next support and resistance area, more or less, we normally call that the guaranteed profit zone. Anything beyond this region right here, now that one, I think it's in God's hands. That one, you're not too sure whether the market is literally going to go past that region. So between your entry and the next scenario that you can visually see, if you can consistently get that, your trading is definitely going to change. So do watch out for that. And of course, watch out for the times. In case you don't get the pullback coming in during the London session, just watch out for the US session. Could potentially find the nice, good trading opportunity at that point in time. So moving on into the next one. This is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, we're watching out to see whether we could get buys. You can't see in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. The buyers did show up. I was really waiting for the pullback to come back in within here. It didn't do that. But much later on, the pullback did actually end up coming in. Unfortunately, my trade got missed out, I think, by 2 pips or a pip and a half or something, somewhere within this region right here, because I knew the market was going to come back in within here. Unfortunately, there was no wick on these candles right here. If only they had wicks, that would have been good going up. But you can see that the market has continued to move to the upside. So let's see what happens on this one. The levels have been adjusted slightly, but you can see that the market is also in some sort of a range within this particular region right here. Also some sort of a funny looking upward channel, but ideally the best area to look for the buying opportunities right now still remains here. It's only when we get the confirmation that the market has broken this region to the upside and potentially holding to the upside, then we could potentially try and see whether we could get some buying opportunities, but also make sure that you don't get squeezed within this region right here. My best bet would be if the market comes back in within this region right here, this would definitely be the best buying opportunity. But let's wait and see what happens. It's always good to always have an open mind when it comes to trading. Don't really try and put the markets into a box. If you try and fix them into what you want, sometimes that can end up being bad. Be a bit flexible and fluid, when it comes to trading. So the next one is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. And you clearly can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price had just broken above this region to the upside, came back in, but you can see that the sellers came down quite aggressively. The buyers struggled within that region, came even much lower. Unfortunately, couldn't come back in all the way till within there. Seems like there was a minor SNR, somewhere within this region right here, and the market did push itself to the upside. The buyers showed up. The sellers really struggled. Could have potentially been a good buy somewhere within this region, but if you look at the times, this was at around 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. Definitely, I'm sure none of us was on the charts at that point in time, but you can see that the market has really pushed itself to the upside quite aggressively. So we will be waiting to see what happens. Hopefully, we can get the market giving us some sort of pullbacks coming in. Right now, the best area that you can watch out for is definitely this region right here. So keep your eyes out for this region. Right now, the market is pushing up high. Let's see how far these guys can actually go. Let's wait and see whether the pullback and how the pullback comes back in within here. Then if we get the buys here, just time and target the highest part that the market does literally end up getting back up until. And of course, do some really good money management. If the market goes past that and goes on further, then well and good. But just make sure that at least you banked some of your cash. So watch out also for this region right here. There's a possibility price could come back in there, in as much as the chances seem slim, because this move to the upside, if you go up to the 1 hour time frame, it's also something that's visible on the 1 hour time frame. And just looking at the 1 hour time frame, you can see that the market broke above this region to the upside quite aggressively. The big boys know that a lot of people are definitely chasing the buying opportunities now. And like I pointed out, they're always looking to make money from retail traders, the small fish. So you could find that the market could pull back in. All the guys who are attempting buys within this region, the real buys could potentially happen off this region right here. And you could find the market pulling back in within here. At that point in time, when so many people get stopped out, especially trying to chase the buys, what normally happens to the human mind is that they will think that the buys are not working, it must be a sell. When they start hitting sells and the market is approaching this region right here, that's when the buy is going to work out. So you'll find that they'll get stopped both ways. And that's how people end up losing money in trading. So just make sure that you're not fooled. But also thank God that you came for the Forex daily analysis. At least you're informed. So do watch out for those three areas right there. Also the region at the bottom, in case the market breaks beneath that, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us unless the market holds above that region. So the second last currency pair that we do have is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we were watching out for buys. Yesterday in the morning when we were looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region right here. And it was just coming up. We're just really keeping our fingers crossed to have the market coming back in as close as possible within here. But unfortunately, we couldn't get that. You can see that the market pushed to the upside, broke to the upside. It seemed like sometimes it was above and beneath this region right here. Could have been a bit hard, but eventually the buyers did push to the upside. So unfortunately for us, this one wasn't really clear in terms of when to actually end up taking the buying opportunity. But generally, you can see that the direction was respected and the market did actually end up going to the upside. So for this one, we will be timing to see whether we can get those pullbacks coming in. This type of pullbacks where the market just breaks and holds above a particular region are never really the best. We want breaks whereby the market literally goes to the upside, quite a number of pips to the upside, so that when it comes back in, you also have a good amount of space for you to actually end up targeting. When the market breaks and just holds above and you end up looking for those buying or selling opportunities, like for example on this one, if you take that region as the highest pattern, you end up looking for your buys within here, you could quite literally end up getting squeezed within this region right here. Those are not really the best opportunities that you want to look out for. Of course, you still can end up taking them, but also have it at the back of your mind that you could get yourself into some sort of a squeeze. So let's see if we could get the market coming back in within here. There's a possibility it can consider the market broke above this region to the upside. You could find the pullback coming back in within there for us to look for some good buying opportunities. So we'll keep our fingers crossed to see what happens. And of course, the region at the bottom, in case the pullback does come in a bit deeper, then that's the next area we'll be watching out for. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, also watching out for buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning when we were watching out for the charts, price was somewhere within here, just coming up, and it broke to the upside. And you can see that the pullback came in nice and slow. I mean, if you did time the buys there, even if you took the chance and put your stops here, you can see that that buy did literally end up paying off. Just needed to watch out for this region right here, a bit of a slowdown, but during the Asian session, you can see that the buyers have continued to push the market to the upside, which is good. So we'll be waiting to see whether we can get pullbacks either back in within this region right here. Of course, the next immediate SNR for us is somewhere within that area there. So just make sure that you do watch out for that, but also watch out for these two other regions right here. So the semi-aggressive conservative region and the aggressive area somewhere down within this area right here. So do watch out also for those two regions right there. So I hope that's clear for everyone in terms of the currency pairs. So we've mixed and matched everything up. For the guys who just come in or came in a bit late, feel free to take note of that. But of course, you also can find this information on our social media platforms. Remember that this information is also live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, and Telegram. But ideally, you can find it on YouTube, Facebook, and X after we're done, and watch and rewatch as many times as you want. So we'll move on to the indices and the commodities. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, yesterday, I think we were watching out to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas that I had pointed out in the morning. And for as long as we're holding beneath there, the buyers was to look for sales. But unfortunately, the sellers yesterday just didn't show up. Somewhere in the morning, somewhere yesterday, at a time like this, price was somewhere within this region right here. The market came down, couldn't get a breach of this region to the upside. The buyers came up quite aggressively. And I think this was more or less the warning shot to the sellers. And after that, they never really showed up, because you can see that the market came back in within this region. Would have expected maybe to see some sellers coming in within this area right here. But you can see this range that happened within here. This is a sign of a struggle that was there between the two parties. And I think it's purely based on how the buyers came up and stepped in within that region so aggressive. Like the sellers were completely left with nothing to do. They really attempted to push to the downside. There was nothing, and the market continued to rally to the upside. So for us, for today, for this one, the buyers has shifted. So for as long as we're holding above that, the buyers should be to look for buying opportunities. Don't look for buys right now. If you do, then you're chasing. And if you do chase, then unfortunately it comes to trading, you chase, you die. So you best off waiting to see what happens. You can see that the sellers within this region have reacted before. They can't do that again. If they do, then just wait and see if you can't get the market. Potential buys somewhere within this region right here, or maybe somewhere lower within this region right here. But also wait and see if you can't get the market breaking above that region to the upside. If that happens, then ideally you could wait for the pullback, then try and see whether you could get your buying opportunities. So the next one is the Dow Jones, or the US 30. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So it's like they went inverse. This one, the market was somewhere within this region right here in the morning. Price came down. We're expecting to see some sort of buyers with reaction within here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. And it's like the sellers really had a field day yesterday. So this one is more or less the inverse of what happened to the NAS 100. So the sellers came down, buyers within this region, no reaction. And you can see that range right there, sign of a struggle. And the market broke to the downside, no reaction whatsoever within here. Because we're expecting, based on the fact that the buyers had come up quite aggressively off this region right here the day before, we're expecting them to do that again. Fortunately, they never showed up, and you can see that the market just broke beneath that region to the downside. So for us, for today, for this one, we will be trying to see whether you can get opportunities within these regions right here, and also areas where you can manage your trades. So do watch out for those three areas right there. Right now, we're so close within this region. Don't really end up looking for yourselves right now, especially with this probe right here. And you can see that SNR is within here. This probe is a sign to tell us that there are definitely buyers who are sitting somewhere within this region right here. So you don't really want to be hitting yourselves within that area right there. Let's wait and see what happens. Maybe during the London session, you could find that the market could really struggle and come back in all the way till within there. And you could find that maybe during the US session, the market could potentially end up giving a really good sell, at around 3-430 of this area to come down to the downside. Also, watch out for the region at the top. You can't quite tell how far the buyers can push the market, but ideally just give them the benefit of doubt. It's always best to do so. So do watch out for those three areas right there, and also areas where you can look for opportunities, and also areas where you can end up potentially managing your trades. So moving on into the next one, which is silver, which is the second last thing that we do look at each and every morning. Now, for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So for as long as we're holding beneath that region, the buyer was to look for selling opportunities. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this region right here, in the middle of this choppy, messy range that was happening. Of course, we're expecting prices to come in as close as possible within here for us to look for the sells, but it seems that there was a region somewhere within here that the sellers were really camping ground. And you can see that off that area, a number of times the market did push itself down to the downside. Unfortunately, when the market broke beneath this region to the downside, there wasn't really much of a pullback to come in all the way back in within there. So unfortunately, this one could have been a bit hard to potentially end up grabbing in terms of the sells. But let's see what happens today. So do watch out for these three areas. So we've adjusted them accordingly. Don't look for the selling opportunities right now. You can see that we're so close within some sort of a buyer's region. We're just holding above an SNR or support region. So you can't quite tell what could happen. You could find that also during the London session, the market could be on the pullback phase, and you could find that maybe at 4:30, price could be backing within this region, or maybe this region at the top right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And of course, the best thing to go about it right now is to wait for the breach to the downside. If the market breaks to the downside, wait and see what pullback you end up getting. If you do get a struggle, and maybe even the market attempting to break above that region to the upside, and that ends up being unsuccessful, and the market continues to hold beneath somewhere within this region right here, then you could potentially look for yourselves. So just be a bit patient on this one. Also remember that the indices and the commodities, there's always a high tendency of them moving during the US session. I mean, they are pegged on the US dollar. So if you find them not really moving a lot during the London session, then just wait and see what happens maybe during the US session. So last but not least, for gold. Now, for gold yesterday, also watching out to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So aggressive, and of course, for as long as we're holding beneath there, the bar is supposed to look for sells, conservative, somewhere within here, semi-aggressive conservative region, somewhere within this area right here. In the morning, you can see that the market went to the upside, came back in, seemed to have held within here, but there was really not much of a reaction. If you attempted sells here, it would stop somewhere within here. Unfortunately, it would have been stopped out on that particular trade, but you can see that the market really got into some sort of a squeeze within this region right here, because the breach anyway was weak. The market was just holding just beneath that region. So even if you got the sales here, you definitely did need to manage somewhere within this region right here. In fact, this is a good example of what I was discussing before, where when you find the weak breaches happening, or the market is just holding within a region, if you get those sales and you overlook this region and you're targeting down here, unfortunately, this area will definitely end up affecting your trading or your trades. So you can see that the market pushed to the upside, came in, came back down, did a massive probe within there. It's only during the US session that once the market came back in within this region, that's when the market was actually able to break free of this area right here. And remember that I had also pointed out that this SNR could potentially give you issues, and that's what gave issues during the London session. But during the US session, at least the sellers were able to break beneath that region. You can even see some sort of a pullback coming back in, within that area. So for this one, for today, we're still going to be watching out for the same regions. So you can end up taking note of these three areas right here. Reason being, I know that some of you may look at this area right here and you're thinking that maybe it would be good to adjust. Of course, we could adjust the levels. However, we are waiting for that confirmation of the breach. So far, there's not been one. You can see that the market broke to the downside, came back in. The first time it was a probe. So we have to wait and see if this second time around, if this is going to be a probe. If it does end up being a probe, and let's say we get the market coming back in to the upside, of this region, and the market holds within here, then that means that this level is still holding. So that's the reason why we will still maintain this level right here. You could find that the market could push to the upside of this area, especially if the market does end up holding and coming back up and holds above here, because these two probes here definitely would end up telling us that there are buyers who are sitting within that region there. So you could find that the market could push to the upside. I wouldn't really advise you to take the counters, because I know that some of you would look at the situation and say, okay, maybe I'll try grab the buy before the sell. Well, you could try and be smart, and you could do that. Maybe you could get away with it, but remember that generally we're in a seller's market, and you could find that the market could technically end up stopping. You could time maybe to get your sales somewhere within there, but you could find that the market might literally end up bouncing off this region here. In as much as there are probes and the market holds within there and then does something like that, and then you're caught wrong-footed. You are timing the buys, you are in on the buys, you didn't see the sell coming in. So I wouldn't really end up advising unless you're really experienced in terms of trading and you can really keep your eyes on the ball without losing focus. Then maybe you should do that. But ideally, most of the time, if you wait, your trading is going to be much more seamless rather. So just make sure that you actually do end up waiting. It's much, much better for you. It will save you a lot of agony and emotional turmoil. So just make sure that you do end up being patient. The right setups will end up showing up, but just make sure that you keep your eyes on the ball. So do watch out for that. Also remember that the market can come back in all the way till the top. It's very possible. Like I keep on pointing out, anything is possible on the charts. So make sure that you do watch out for that. So I guess that's pretty much it for all the currency pairs and commodities. Once again, for the guys who came in late, feel free to have a look at that. Looking at the Q&A real quick. So I see my good friend Bravin there. Good to see you, Bravin. You're asking me to repeat silver. So I'll do that for you real quick. So for this one, basically, we're watching out for sales. So Bravin, I know you're experienced. Just looking at that can definitely end up decoding what's going on there. So I hope that you've taken note of that. So I'm not seeing any more questions, which is okay. At least nowadays, we don't really get a lot of repeat this and that because all the information now is on YouTube, Facebook, X. You can find it there. But we hope that you guys do use that information as a resource. Of course, the more times you end up watching that, you start to realize certain things about how we end up going about it in terms of interpreting the charts. And of course, the more you become accustomed to that, the better for you in terms even of trading. Certain pointers and hints that we always do end up throwing here each and every morning will definitely make a lot more sense in your trading. So I see Metrin, you're asking me for the NAS 100. There it is. This one we're watching out for buys. Let's see what happens, but don't look for buying opportunities right now. Wait for the pullback or for the breach of this region to the upside. Then maybe you could look for your buying opportunities at that point in time. So I hope that sorts you out, Metrino Asike. I see Daniela, good to see you. You're asking me for USD CHF. So for this one, the buyers do their thing. Let's wait and see if we could get the pullback coming in. Yes, but even if you don't, you can find them on our site. But I think also they can be put there on the chat box. Feel free to send in your screenshots. And also, if you're struggling with your trading, feel free to also hit us up. We'll see how best we can end up helping you. So with that, happy trading, guys, and bye for now. Hope to see you tomorrow. May the peeps be with you. God bless.